Hello, Electric Jeff from Monochrome.
Hi,
So
Martin.
Jeff doesn't get to see the intro before we do it. It's just going to be a theme. So he had this wonderful graphic, and I just thought I can't resist using that. So how you doing, Jeff?
Very good, thanks. Really good to meet you again. It seems like ages since we were at the Mailbox in Edinburgh. So it's, really nice to be back and with you guys again.
Yeah, I think it was 28th of January, nearly 2.5 years ago, that you were last
Crikey.
up in Edinburgh doing that. So yeah, a long time. So do you want to tell everybody what you do at Monochrome and what Monochrome do?
Yeah, certainly. My name's Jeff Smith. I currently work for Monochrome. I've been there about 4 years now myself. The company's been over 20 years now and has always been involved in app and web design. And a few years ago, Monochrome were invited to take part in helping ServiceNow specifically build service portals in ServiceNow back in the old CMS days. And we've seen, and built many portals, CMS, Service Portal, and now the Employee Center, and even UI Builder, other bits and pieces along the way. And just absolutely loving it, and bring our creative designers, bring in our front-end developers to the world to make service portals just much better.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about making service portals much better for most of today's show, and different elements of that, I think. So let's just start off by doing a quick transition and having a look at a couple of portals that you and I may well recognise. So I'm just going to run through a couple of quick examples here. The first couple of portals we got actually Freshworks portals. These are off-the-shelf templates from a company called Breezy Themes, who are a third party. That one there's for England Rugby in the local England Rugby themed colours. And then we've got a couple from Jeff's guys at Monochrome. And this is how they can set up and make your service portals look and feel. So within 99% of service desk products, I would guess nowadays, that you can go in and you can add in a logo and you can change the color scheme, but you can't get anything that looks as pretty and as cool as these off-the-shelf options. But you can effectively go and skin your service desk in a very short period of time for a very low cost and make it look absolutely stunningly fabulous. So if you haven't already done that, go see Jeff or come and see me, and we can point you in the right directions to do that. But today, I didn't want to concentrate so much on just having things pretty, because there's more than that to making a service portal good. So cue rather strange example. Yes, it's a microwave oven. So I smoked you out a bit there, Jeff.
Okay.
So I just recently changed my microwave oven because the existing one was 15 years old and it worked fine, but I wanted a new funky looking one, and it's got a matching toaster and it's got a matching kettle and it looks great in the kitchen. So that's why primarily I changed it. It seemed like a good idea, but it's a bit like changing your service desk. You might change your service portal for one that looks funky, but once I'd actually got it and started to use the microwave, I suddenly realized that the user interface on it was way better. So previously, if I wanted to heat up my cup of coffee, which is pretty much what I do all the time with my microwave, because I'm doing stuff like this and my coffee's always going cold, I would have to go to the microwave, go to hit power, then hit power 3 times to move it from low to medium to high, then hit time, and then hit time 4 times to get it to go up 10 seconds at a time to 40 seconds, and then hit start. On this microwave, there is a super start button or something along those lines. So I put my coffee in and I press one button, and it immediately does exactly what it took me 8 button presses to do before. So, it's been a revelation in terms of a microwave, but it certainly reminded me of some of the sort of UI and UX challenges that we have with service portals. Now, before I move you on, I'm just going to show you a couple of comments that have come in, Jeff. We've got some people watching us, which is great, and are looking forward to hearing what we're about to say. I'm hoping. And we've even got an answer to what computer did you first have? ZX81. We'll come back to the end. I had one too, Paul. So thanks for coming along, Paul. Good to see you in the house. I have to say things like in the house because it's a stream. Anyway, moving on to a question for you, Jeff. Based around my microwave, I would like you to answer this one.
Okay.
Which is UI and UX and indeed CX, in your experience and relating to monochrome and what you've been doing with service portals, please define the difference between the two and why they make a difference.
Oh wow! I mean, that is a great question already, straight from the start. I mean, you could ask 10 different people this and get 10 different answers. But essentially, in summary, the UX user experience side of things is probably can be applied to maybe the digital and the physical side of things. Where it's the look, it's the feel of what it is. It's with your microwave there, for example, the experience is you put your food into it, you close the door, you press the button, and it cooks your food, and that's what you want it essentially to do to cook your food or reheat your coffee or whatever you need to do. And it's very much after at the very end, from end to end, once you pull, get your coffee out of the coffee, is it warm? Yes, that's great. That's great user experience. The user interface is going to be probably the visual touch points. When you look at your microwave, you can figure out there's a handle, so you can open the door. It seems very obvious, but if there was no handle, there was a push button or something, or some kind of magic wave your hand over it and it opens for you, or even voice activated. Who knows these days? Then you have to figure out that you've got to make that obvious to people to use. Equally, then, like you said, pressing the button 3 times, or press a button, twist a dial, press another button. The user interface is there, and it may be obvious step by step. But if you've got a big button saying, easy cook or super cook, whatever it is, you press it once, it's done, and that user interface has done its job then. And I think it reflects across to service portals as well. If you were to, juxtapose the old with the new, I think service portals, that they still have the same journeys. The user experience is still similar. It's the idea that you might want to raise, highlight a problem, something's broken, or you want to order something from a catalog somewhere. And with those in mind, you kind of, as long as the structure in the back end is okay, as long as you can fill out the form correct, or find what you're looking for first of all, then fill out the form and then send it off to someone who will deal with that for you and help you with it. And that's your user experience. The user interface is probably more directly the portal. The idea of, if I want to order something, there should be a button there saying that. If I want to look at some whale tickets, why have a range of 10 different types of tickets? Why not just have one list? And that kind of interface makes a big difference to people. And
I think just to pick up on a couple of those things there, I think it's all very well a service portal looking pretty, but unless it's actually functional and people like it, well, bottom line is make a service portal people like, not necessarily just one that looks pretty. If it looks pretty and it's a pain in the neck to use, or they can't find anything, then they won't come back. And that, to me, then becomes the CX element, the customer experience more generically with your company. If they like it, they'll keep coming back. Whether that's internal or external in terms of a service portal, it doesn't really matter. Your goal is get them to use the service portal and to a certain degree take away any pressures from other staff, etc. like that. But there is tons of data out there that say people don't like service portals and they find them difficult to use, and I would venture to say that's because there's a lot of bad service portals out there, and
I've
maybe
seen a few
people
of those.
have gone, I think we've probably both seen a few of those. But picking up on one of the other things that you mentioned there, I happen to know that you have got a particularly good way of navigating through the vast quantity of data that's now out there, because the bigger the service portals become, and there is a tendency for IT to just keep throwing stuff and throwing stuff and throwing stuff onto the service portal, and perhaps not dealing with the appropriate language that people understand, or not putting people putting it in the right place, and people are drowning in information. So what I think I shall do now is I'm going to do another transition, and I'm going to pop you in the hot seat, and I'll be sitting in the background. I may still have my mic unmuted, but I'm going to get you to show a little bit of how you find your way around service catalogues.
That's great. Thanks very much, Martin. So, yeah, service catalogs. It's a part of the portal. It's where people go to order things. And I've got so many stories about things that have happened in the past. First year, or maybe you should say this first. This image of me, by the way, this was, I think Dave Marsh, our creative director, is watching this stream as we speak. And I'm sure he's chuckling away as he knows that this is one of his first projects he did when I first joined, along with Matt, one of our designers, to make this impactful background, should we say. Yeah, but let's go over that. So when you want to order something from your department or whatever team you're looking to order something from, first and foremost, there are probably a few different ways you can find what you're looking for. One is to search for something, one is perhaps to browse for it, and another may be a direct link that someone's given you. And I always find that if you go to search for something, you have to make sure that your results actually are something that are useful to people, depending on what they've typed in. And there's a great story I have from a place I used to work, where their service portal was a nightmare. Their catalogue was in disarray, and they had plenty of useful things on there, useful services and items to order. But people found actually there was no way of finding what they're looking for. And then we did some user research with lots of different people from various different countries. And one great example was a lady came up to me and said that she was trying to order a new phone. In case a new mobile phone, because she needed it for a role. She was moving all the place and needed it. And when she typed in the words phone into the search engine, or tried to browse the phones, which was a nightmare as well. When she tried to search for it, she got lots of results back saying, here's the phone number for this service desk, here's the phone number for the team out in Bangladesh. And it was all very, plenty of useful services on there, but not the one thing she wanted. So in hindsight, you look back, and I got hold of the fulfillment team, the people who provide the services in the end, and said, well, why are people finding it hard to find things? And they said, well, with a blinking, they just looked at me and said, well, it's quite simple. She should search for a mobile device. And that very different thing triggered something in me to go, actually, service portals are very important. And the way that you build them, the way you look at them, and if people want people to engage with them, you need to make sure that they can find what they're looking for. So as an example on here, if I was going to search for something, and I put in phone into search here, a decent result back, which gives you some categorization and, importantly, maybe some filters. And you can see phone gives me a fairly broad description of what I can get. I can get a phone and voicemail request. I can get endpoint security somehow. And I'm starting to see what I'm looking for, which is good, these mobile phones. But luckily, on this left-hand side, I've got a little filter. There we go. There it is. There are my 4 different options I can choose from. From there, I can order what I'm looking for. And then that's kind of your search area there. If I go back to browse for the object instead, and again, perhaps you can see on this version here, this is our stack widget, as we call it. We came up with the idea that if you have, some people have thousands, if not tens of thousands of items in their catalogs, but generally, if you had, say, maybe 10 categories here, 10 subcategories here, and 10 items or more, then you could up to, within 20 items, you could have up to 1,000, 2,000, 10 by 10 by 10, up to 1,000 items kind of literally sitting on one page, and easily to browse through. And so if I look at hardware, mobiles, again, I've got my results again. And I think that this kind of smooth transition, perhaps, branding things in your own company's colors, and again, the aesthetic things with the user interface makes such a difference. And then once you know what you're looking for, and you can find things, you can start ordering them, and you can fill out the details of what you need, and off it goes. And I think just that process, end to end, nice and easy to find it, nice and easy to look, to find what you're looking for, a bit of feedback on what's happening to your actual item itself. All these things will engage people using service portals. And I think if with that in mind there, Martin, it's probably time for an next transition.
I love that, actually, and I can see it being applied in multiple areas as well, because the other one to me that jumps out is knowledge as well. So when people are trying to search a knowledge base, exactly the same thing. If they can't find what they're looking for, they will go away and they will never come back again. So we're back to the UI, UX, CX type of thing. If people can categorize their knowledge in a sensible way, which is a way that the end user understands it as well. So there's no point in over teching things, which I have seen so many times. You just mentioned mobile phone, mobile device. Well, what's the terminology? It's very clear that you need to, within knowledge management in general, speak in terms that the end user is using, rather than, I don't know, instant problem change. I had a somebody recently who'd rolled their service desk out to the HR department, who were efficiently going and logging loads of calls, but they're logging them all as problems because they thought they were problems.
Someone who's ITIL qualified, that hurts me.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things when you suddenly realise, actually, that's our fault, because it wasn't their fault at all. So I love what you're doing there. The spin logo in the middle here. Go on, tell your story, Jeff.
Quickly. Sorry, just the idea of people who in the ITIL world who know that terminology, and I've heard someone before say that, okay, with the service portal, I said, are you sure you want to have incidents and requests and request items separately? And as much as the terminology suits a lot of people in the IT world, they said, oh, well, it's quite easy. We'll kind of strong arm our customers. We'll strong arm our staff into using the terminology. And I just shook my head thinking that just seems like the wrong way to go, because it just is much easier if you can go with the flow of things, go with the zeitgeist of what people are doing, and adapt your terminology over time. And although in the back end, the people who are dealing with things can use the ITIL terminology or whatever terminology you're using. The front end bits and pieces need to be much more customer user friendly.
Yeah, and I think even at something as simple as incidents, people don't understand incidents. They would rather it's called a ticket, generally speaking, because that's what they get in the supermarket when they're queuing up at the meat counter or whatever. It's just give me a ticket. That makes sense to them, and we need to make sure that those particular elements are kept clean and tidy, just so people actually understand what's coming along. So with that in mind, this rotating image here is artificial intelligence, and next I'm going to be asking you about where you see things going from a service portal perspective, because I'd noticed in your example it says "Hi Hannah" at the top of the service portal, which immediately makes me think, right, we're beginning to get some sort of contextual awareness possibly coming down the line, whereby when Hannah logs on, as opposed to Jeff or Martin, we all get a different service portal view based upon our role, our location, the software that we frequently use, the hardware that we've got, because it doesn't make, again, any sense to me to display a whole load of stuff, whether it's a service catalog, knowledge-based service portal, which is not applicable to us. And now we have got very good AI and machine learning coming along that has a ability to gather all the data. They know the calls I previously logged. They know other people like me have been logging calls from a particular location with my job role. They know all these things. So to me, that's a goldmine of information that could be driving service portals. So I'm just seeing "Hi Hannah" there. What's going on behind the scenes? Are you heading in that direction? I don't know that anybody's there yet, but where are things going?
I think you got a spot on, Martin. I'd be definitely go in that direction. There's definite benefits if you can use your imagination a little bit as to what's possible. I think it's definitely the way the world should be going. I mean, for a long time now, people have been getting this contextualization in place. They have maybe artificially managed it by, you see Hi Hannah on there. It's generally down to the fact that when Hannah's logged in, it's recognized off her user records that the location is where it is. Her name is Hannah. And there's nothing worse than calling a service desk or a help desk, perhaps particularly the third, fourth time in a row to chase something. And they start with, oh, what's your name? Okay, where's your location? Can I have your computer name, please? All these kind of standard things just irritate people over time. And so if you can minimize this, the replication data that's already there. It's sitting there. The user record is there. Their location is there. The machine they have, the assets, are assigned to them. All these things. If you can use these things already, then you've saved half the conversation. And you can just say, on this thing that I have, there's a problem with this, and it's this error message. Bam. Why did you do any more than this? And I think that's the way we're going. And whereas lots of big companies, especially, have been able to afford the time and effort to manage this artificially by entering the data in and putting in certain code to pull this data through. With AI, we're starting to see people, machine learning coming in place and go, actually, this person last logged into this or into this knowledge article. So perhaps they're in HR, if they're looking at, maternity leave policies, or they're looking at annual leave cases all the time, then you can detect that and start nudging the results in your search to be more relevant to you. That's the key thing. Every search there should be simple, it should be relevant, and it should be useful to you at the end of the day, so you can find something. And I think that's the way we're definitely going with AI search. And fingers crossed it moves quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it coming around the corner, because every time I log on to Amazon, it says people like you liked the following item, and it's doing that purely based on AI and what I've previously done and what I previously bought. Historically, it hasn't always got it right, but it is getting better as we move forward. So I don't know. A good example there is when I've just bought something, which is a sort of a one-time purchase. I can't think of anything at the moment, but
usually gift for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy another one almost exactly the same from a different brand. So, Amazon doesn't always get it correct from that perspective. But I actually, to some degree, think it's a bit easier to identify the patterns on the service desk. So if I've got a particular job role and I use a particular set of software, it should very easily know which knowledge articles have been the most use to other people with my job role and my software set, and pop those up to the top of the list. So I log on and it's proactively saying to me, oh, by the way, just in case, before you start asking any questions, these are the top 10 questions that other people like you asked. Is it one of these? And if it's a question of, hey, it's me too, then go straight for it. And that sort of, minimal amount of intelligence could revolutionize all of the searching and things like that.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely the world's going to go. And that example of knowledge articles coming to the forefront makes such a difference, because the different types of views you have. There are some who want to try and find answers, some that are not you just want help straight away. Those ones who want to find answers, give it to them, because that saves you so much time, with your own IT department or whichever department supporting in any case.
I think that is absolutely spot on. For anybody who hasn't noticed already, when I brought Jeff on a little earlier on, there was a different coloured QR code. If you take your phone out and scan the QR code, that will take you to the monochrome website, where you can have a look at the ServiceNow stuff. You've already seen my QR code, but it's going to appear again in a minute. So somebody is normally smart at this point and say, what if I'm watching on a phone? How do I scan the QR code? Well, take a picture of it and then drop it into your QR code reader, and it will go to the sign. So there are ways to do it. Nearly always somebody asks, but we're kind of already, believe it or not, half an hour through the show. Time flies when you're enjoying yourself, so to speak. And at this point, what I normally ask is the question we had at the beginning. We know that Paul said he'd got a ZX81 at his first computer. I had a ZX81 that's my first computer. Jeff, what was your first computer?
Mine was a Commodore 64, and I remember pressing play on tape to get some of the games going, and I I think my first ever program I wrote was on a Commodore 64. And it was a quick one, took about 10 minutes to code something, took about 30 seconds to play the game, and I had to do it all over again. But fun.
I seem to remember much the same experience, and I think I have a very embarrassing picture of me opening a Commodore 64 at Christmas at some point or other. It could have been a VIC-20, not quite sure, one of those two. But yeah, the days of pressing a button to try and load a tape in, those were great fun. No, I'm very glad that we're not streaming with that at the moment. So
yeah, get 10 minutes for the loading screen. Yeah.
Adrian's with you, Commodore 64 as well. So I think that's actually probably the first real computer I had, if I want to call it that, because it's the first one that was any use for anything whatsoever. The ZX81 with its rubbery keys and things falling apart and falling down all the time were absolutely awful. So to actually get onto a Commodore 64 where I could play, I think Defender or something like that was one of the best ones that I had in terms of games. Oh, I see. Yeah. Adrian's there as well, saying Daley Thompson's Decathlon was his favourite. That involved destroying a keyboard, from what I can remember, and just sort of
proper button bashing.
Yeah, bang keyboard to death and destroy it. And probably not the best idea for a game, but I seem to remember that one. Yeah.
Well, if you're looking to sell more keyboards, it's a great one. Yeah.
It wouldn't have been very good on the ZX80 or 81, I can tell you that. your finger would have gone through.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. Hang out in the green room and we'll have a wee chat afterwards. But in the meantime, I get to do your electric outro again. So here we go.
Thanks for having me.
See you later, Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for everybody who's popped along to the stream, and particularly if you popped along and popped a comment in, that is even better. On my left or my right, depending on which way you're looking at it, is a QR code that will take you to my profile. If we're not already connected, get connected on LinkedIn. That would be great. You will be able to see under my features section up and coming videos and all of the remaining videos. And this is normally when I tell you what's happening next week on the show. Well, next week on holiday in Mallorca, and the week after that, for that matter. So nothing's happening next week. With that, thanks very much for joining, and thanks to Jeff for joining. And Jeff, I'll catch you in the green room in a minute. And goodbye, cheerio, until next time.